Welcome back. In this practice, we will learn how to install Oracle Database 12c under Linux environment. First of all, let's go to the directory where the Oracle Database 12c media staged and downloaded. Change directory /01 stage. This is the media of Oracle Database 12c. It comes with two zipped disks, disk 1 and disk 2. This is the version of Oracle Database software, which is 12.102 for Linux 64-bit, disk 1 and disk 2. So be careful when you plan to download Oracle media from Oracle website, because there is a separate media for each platform. For example, if you plan to install Oracle Database software on Linux environment, there is a Linux 32-bit version and Linux 64-bit version. If you plan to download for Windows, media for Windows, there is also Oracle Database 12c for Windows 32-bit and for Windows 64-bit. Same as for Spark 64-bit, there is a separate media 12c for Spark 64-bit. There is a separate media for IBM AIX and so on. So Oracle produce an Oracle database media for each platform. Depends on your platform. You have to download the corresponding Oracle database media. So let's start by extracting the zip files by using unzip utility. Start with disk 1. This take around 10 to 13 seconds, depending on the speed of your disks and speed of your server. So here we go. Do the same thing for disk 2. Now the extraction finished for both disks. A new directory called database will be created automatically. Let's go to the database directory and explore inside this directory. There is a script runnable or executable file called run installer. This is the setup file on Linux and Unix environment. In Windows you might find setup.exe or something else, but in Windows, in Linux and Unix environments, the script to launch the Oracle Universal installer called run installer. Let's launch the setup file by run installer. As you can see here, this is the first screen for the installation of Oracle Database 12c. This is Oracle 12c database installation. If you want to be informed of security issues, you can provide your Oracle support email and the password. In our case, we don't have Oracle support email and password, so we uncheck this box and click next. This is a confirmation. Yes, I want to be uninformed of critical security issues. Oracle Database 12c installation options. There are 3 options to install Oracle Database software. Install the software and create and configure a database. So during this wizard you can install the software and create a database. Install only the software and upgrade an existing database. If you have older version 11G existing database, you can automatically upgrade the database to 12c. In our case, we are going to just install database software, because in later practices we will learn how to create a database from scratch. Click next. Select the type of database installation you want to perform. There are three database installation: single node, real application cluster, or Oracle RAC 1 node. In case you have grid infrastructure installed on 2, 3, or 4 or many servers, you have the option here to install Oracle Real Application Cluster database or install RAC 1 node. Be careful, these two options need a separate license. So in our case, we have only one single instance database server. We will stuck with option 1. Click next. Here you can select the product language. We will use only English language. If you need to, for example, French, German, Arabic, or whatever, you can select the language that you want and move it like this. Okay, let's start with English language. Next. Here is the edition. Edition means what are the features enabled with database software. For example, in standard edition, you cannot configure Oracle standby database or data guard. You cannot use most of the security options like encryption, database vault, Oracle label security. These features comes only with Enterprise Edition. With Enterprise Edition, you can configure security options like encryption, like database vault, like label security, like standby databases, and so on. Partitioning also available only with Enterprise Editions. In Standard Edition or Standard Edition 1, some of the features are disabled. And cannot be used. Starting from 12c database, there is separate media for each edition. So this media is only for Enterprise Edition. So the only available option is Enterprise Edition. If you plan to use Standard Edition, you can download Oracle Database 12c Standard Edition for Oracle Linux. 64-bit. So as you can see here, this is from Oracle website. As you can see here, this is Oracle Database 12.102 Enterprise Edition. There is a media for Windows 64-bit. There is a media for Linux 64-bit. There is a media for Spark, and so on. For Standard Edition, also there is a media for Windows 64-bit, for Linux, for Spark, and so on. Let's return back to our installation. Once you choose or downloaded the edition you want, you can now click next. Here you can specify the location of Oracle base and Oracle home. So this is software location, means the Oracle home. Click next. This is the most important part of the installation, which is mapping between Oracle privileges, super privileges, and the existing operating system groups. In the first one, which is mapping between sysdba privilege and DBA operating system group. This means any operating system user part of the DBA operating system group can connect to the database as sysdba without providing username and password. This is called operating system authentication. The second one means any operating system user part of the operating system OPER group can connect to the database as sysOPER without any username and password. The last three groups, this is a new feature in 12c, introduced only in 12c. Before 12c or like 11g, 10g, these groups are not available. The DBA group or backup DBA group, this group means any operating system user part from operating system backup DBA group can connect to the database as sysbackup without username and password for doing backup and recovery operation. The fourth group means any operating system user part of the DGDBA operating system group can connect to the database as sysdg without providing username and password, and he can maintain switch over failover operation for the data guard. The last one means any operating system user part from the KM DBA operating system group can connect to the database as syskm privilege without providing username and password, and he can manage the encryption keys, create credential store, create master key, create keys, and so on for the encryption purpose. Once the mapping finished, you can click next. Here, checking of any requirements, any prerequisites like packages, kernel parameters, shell limits for the operating system. If there's any missing prerequisites, the wizard will inform you for any missing prerequisite. In our case, there is no missing prerequisites, so we will start the installation by click install. The installation takes around 4 to 15 minutes, depends on the speed of your server. Let's wait some time until the installation finished. So at the end of the installation, the wizard installation will ask you to run a script called root.sh under Oracle home directory. This script must be run as root user. This script two main things. The first thing, which is creating Aura env environment variable or environment file, and the second thing, creating Aura tab file under /etc directory. So let us run the script as root user. So he will ask you where he will put the Aura env environment file. The default location /usr /local/bin. You can change this location as you want. We will accept the default. So here he create a file called Aura env under /usr local bin. So this file we will see later on how to use this file to set Oracle SID and Oracle home environment variables. The second file created under /etc, which is called Aura tab. This contains an entries for each database created by using dbca commands. We will see later on how to create a database, and we will see this file how it will automatically maintained. Click OK and click close. Our installation now was successful. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video was informative for you. See you in other practices.